Okay, so you probably haven't heard of this movie. This is another This is a movie that is out this weekend. It is not playing everywhere. It's just playing in select cities. It's a movie called Dark Crimes, which was, I believe, made like a couple of years ago, and is just now getting this like quiet, limited release. I didn't hear of this movie until a week or two ago. I certainly never saw a trailer for the movie. And what the film is, it is a dark thriller that I believe is taking place in Poland, in which Jim Carrey is playing a detective who is trying to solve this crime from a victim and a suspect that both appear to lead to this kind of like sex cult. And he has a suspect in mind who is this novelist who's played by Martin Sakis. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but he is this novelist who has in this unpublished manuscript written details of the crime that no one else would know. So the movie is Jim Carrey trying to link him to this crime, as well as a corrupt police chief. And it is a wildly against type of role and movie for Jim Carrey. This is a it is a very dark, brooding thriller. And currently, it is sitting at a flat 0 from all critics. I've not seen anyone who likes this movie to the point to where, not that I'm saying I'm seeing a lot of people who hate it necessarily, but no one liking it to the point to where they're even giving the movie a positive review. And what I'll say about this movie is that there is certainly things to admire in the movie. If there's something that is carrying a lot of these scenes, for lack of a better word, it's Jim Carrey. Seeing him in this kind of role works. And like, I'm thinking back to like The Number 23, which was a bad movie, but he was really good in it. And seeing him in this, it is a very quiet, subtle.
And he does a good accent too. I mean, at least for me,
I'm not an expert on that accent,
but it was different for me to see him doing like an accent.
That never took me out of it. I'm not an expert on this accent that he's doing, so I don't know if he's doing it correctly or not, but for me, in watching it, no, he was pulling it off fine. He has a lot of power in these scenes. It is fascinating watching him in this kind of role, doing this kind of performance.
He was the only thing that was carrying me through this movie.
It's not a poorly made movie.
No, it looks nice. Like,
yeah.
There's a lot of good, like, cinematography going on and acting, but it's just... like, 15 minutes into the movie, I was like, is it just me, or are you really lost too? In this story.
Pay attention, honey.
But you are too. Normally, I'm the one that's lost in movies, and I always have questions. And you're like, no, it's not just
you. See, honey, the plot is that Big Bird is gone, and they gotta follow that bird.
I'm not mentally challenged.
I know.
But this movie, I mean, normally I'm lost in a lot of movies, but...
This movie is not good.
It's not.
It's not good, and it's not good in a different way than, like, Show Dogs last night that was just annoyingly, aggravatingly fucking bad. This movie is almost heartbreakingly bad, because there's talent there. There's talent there in the cinematography, in the direction, in the performances. Certainly.
There's just not a story.
This is one of those movies that feels...
You said like it was like missing pieces.
It's not as inept as The Snowman. Like, it's not like that. Like, it's not laughably fucking inept like that goddamn
No,
movie.
it's just,
But
I didn't see it, but this movie's just really, really boring, and I had to sit through this, and I was like,
well, it's 90 minutes, and half of it
I
is
didn't
the
feel like it.
half of the movie though is just the company logos at the beginning of it. That seemed to go on for 10 minutes.
For the first, like, 2 minutes of this movie, they show, like, really shocking imagery, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm kind of into this. And then, I mean, I don't know, I thought it was going to be more of an exploitation movie, and then after that, it was just this really slow, exhausting, dry investigation story that goes nowhere, and it's really confusing too, because there's nothing that leads anywhere. It's just like, so who's this? I don't know, like, it was really confusing and just really boring.
There are it's the kind of like crime mystery movie that wants to be in the league of like other like sleazy thrillers, like like 8mm
Like
or
Seven.
Tightrope, things that are more into like sex than like Seven is, things like Tightrope or 8mm or Cruising. But all three of those movies are fucking great, by the way, and all of them are better than this film. It's one of those movies that feels like they just drop you into this movie like 20 minutes in. You don't know who people are. You don't know who the victim is. You don't know who the suspect is. You barely know anything about the main character of this film. It frequently, throughout this movie, references characters that I'm not exactly sure who they are.
Yeah, they will throw names out, and you're like,
Yeah.
who's that again?
I don't know who that is. I don't know who this... I don't know anything about this victim. It does feel like it's a movie where you're coming into it halfway. And as I was watching this movie, the only thing I can think of is that it feels like it's the kind of movie that was maybe hastily edited to be about 90 minutes. Because it doesn't feel like The Snowman, where just like they couldn't shoot the entire movie, so they had to stitch together this Frankenfilm. Like, this feels like it's frustrating because there are good things about it. It's almost like I could see a good movie in this film.
Yeah, I was like, this is really frustrating because I can see a good movie in here somewhere.
The sex cult is really just in the first couple of minutes, and it's during the opening credits.
And it's for like 2 minutes, and then after that, it's just a whole this like investigation, and then at the last, like, what's that actress's name that I really
Charlotte
like?
Gainsbourg.
I like her a lot, and she did a really, really good
Yeah.
performance, especially towards the end, because she explains it, and spoilers, I guess. No.
The ending 2 minutes are... The ending 2 minutes are... It's a good scene, but it's like a lot of other things in this movie, where I could see how this would work in a better edit of this film. In a better edit that is giving me context to so much more stuff that's going on. Because the way that this film is edited, the way this story is paced, it's one of those movies that plays along like I'm supposed to have read the script, or I'm supposed to already know about all these things that are going on. So you have scenes where characters will just sort of switch their motivations on a dime, switch their moods on a dime. There's a sex scene.
Yeah, I was just gonna bring that up.
that feels like it comes out of nowhere. There's no proper setup or context to anything in this film, whether it's the plot, whether it's the characters, whether it's the twists and turns that it takes with the plot or the characters. There's like heavy information that is given to Jim Carrey just by someone like randomly handing him like a newspaper that kind of feels
oh, yeah,
like.
and then he starts vomiting. I was like, did I miss something? And he said, oh, I don't know.
I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. Maybe.
I was like,
it's possible.
What just happened? And yeah, someone just hands him some sort of piece of paper that I guess is really important because he starts going to the bathroom and vomiting because it's so shocking. Maybe I missed something, but I would always ask you during the movie. I would be like, what was that?
The movie's a slog. It's a slog to sit through. And you're right in that what is the best part of these scenes is Jim Carrey. Like, his performance deserves so much better than this movie. This is a movie that somebody like David Fincher or David Lynch or David Cronenberg, any of the Davids really, like throw David Zucker in there, why not? Could have taken this and really, really ran with it. This is a well-shot movie, and it's not a poorly directed film, but it feels like it is directed by somebody who has their hands tied. It feels like this movie went through 2 years of post-production hell. It's a mess.
I feel bad for him, Jim Carrey.
I feel bad for everyone in this movie. This is a movie that I don't even know if the problem is in the script. This is a movie where I even feel bad for the screenwriter. I
thought the script was a huge problem.
But I think that if there is a lot that is butchered about this movie, and I don't know, it just kind of feels like that. Because I can see where this maybe started out as a good project. Certainly, if it amped up a lot of the sex cult stuff, or any of the characters, or anything, I can't fathom in my head that the result is what this movie originally started out as. Not with the guy who wrote it has written good movies in the past, wrote Mrs. Brown and Last King of Scotland. I'm not really familiar with the director, but this was a really, really frustrating sit. And yeah, it's only 90 minutes long, but it feels like it is just shit.
Really long.
It feels like it is just shit out there in select theaters to just get it out there and forget about it. We've made it, so we might as well put it out there. No one's gonna see it. Yeah, it wants to be one of those like 8mm really dark sex thrillers, but
I thought you said that they added the sex part in the beginning because they wanted like some sort of...
no, I mean that feels like it was something that was already in the movie. That was something okay, in the opening credits it's showing different things in this like sex club, like women tied up, orgies, all of that. That feels like it was maybe part of a longer sequence, or maybe something that had more context. That feels like it was something that probably should have come later, but was spliced into the opening credits.
So it can grab you a little bit.
Yeah, so it could maybe pull you in by just showing sex.
And it worked. I mean, I was like, okay, well, let's see where this goes. And then after that, it's just an hour and a half worth of nothing. I was like...
The first act of this movie, the first 20 minutes, feels like it's sacrificing story and character just to show some instances of that sex club, and also Jim Carrey listening to these graphic descriptions of like rape and torture and murder, as if just that alone is supposed to pull me into this story, and it doesn't, because I don't know what this case is that they're solving. I don't know who this guy is, who he thinks is a suspect. I really don't know anything about Jim Carrey, other than he's a cop in the film, and
they show his family and his wife, and I was
God.
like... And I didn't know if that was his wife or not for a while, because... There's a lot, because she has like an affair, I think, because we see him driving by a school, like with their kid, I guess.
No, that was the writer and Charlotte Gainsbourg, I think.
What? Oh.
I'm pretty sure
Maybe.
it was.
Who knows? I don't know. But his wife, or whatever, is just hardly a character, but we are supposed to be concerned for their marriage. And then there's a scene where his mom dies.
Oh.
And I was like, who's that? Because I don't care. Like, I was like, who is this?
Because there was obviously... It is obvious there was more to that. There was originally more to that. We see Jim Carrey with his mother in a scene at the beginning of the movie, and you just completely forget about her. She is not in the movie again until...
He comes down like an elevator or something, and then he starts crying, and I see a dead woman on the floor, and I was like...
Yeah, you go, who's that?
I forgot who that was.
I forgot she was in the movie until she's just randomly dead.
Yeah.
And the wife character in the movie is just one of those stereotypical wives for this kind of movie where he wants to get back in because he's been demoted into working in the file room, but then he gets this case again to try to boost up his career, to get his career back. She's one of those wives in these movies that is just there to say, like, I don't want you doing this, or if you do this, I'm gonna leave you. That's it. For like the few scenes that she's in, it is just that and nothing more.
And it's like, I feel like I should be concerned, but I am not, because it's just...
But I was constantly enjoying Jim Carrey's performance.
Me too. Him and I forget that actress's name every single time.
Charlotte Gainsbourg. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right, but
no,
Charlotte
they were
Gainsbourg.
both really, really good in this, and their performances alone made me feel sane during this movie. Because
yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Because that was the only thing that was really helping me watch this movie, because I was starting to fall asleep sometimes because...
I don't blame you.
I was just getting... I was laying down and I was like, okay, where's this going? Oh, something just happened. I should be concerned, but I'm not. I had no idea what just happened.
I want to see Jim Carrey do this kind of thing more. I felt that way after the number 23, which again was a bad movie, but it made me want to see more of this kind of work from Jim Carrey.
Yeah, he was so good in this, and I feel bad for him.
Yeah, he manages to carry it very well with a very quiet, very, very subtle performance. And his look, his mannerisms, what he does with some tics in his face, even when it gets to the point in the movie where his character grows more and more frustrated in the situation, he works in these scenes.
And sex scene.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I've never seen this side of Jim Carrey. You see him like orgasm, and it was just, oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's good in the scene. The scene comes out of fucking nowhere, and it's doing something that I've seen better in Blue Velvet. Way goddamn fucking better. I'm surprised there aren't at least a couple of critics that liked it. Only because there were at least a few critics that liked The Snowman, which was way more inept than this film.
I need to see that movie.
The Snowman is it's a worse film, but it's more watchable than this because of how hilariously inept it is. This movie's not hilariously bad. It's just bad. But I don't know, like because there were a few that liked The fucking Snowman, I'm like, well, I don't know. I guess I could have seen someone maybe liking this movie for the performances alone, and it's not a poorly made film, but it's not a good sit.
It was hard.
Yeah.
Sit through this. It was really hard.
Yeah, if you want to see it just for curiosity to see Jim Carrey do this kind of movie, I mean, go for it. I understand that curiosity. I mean,
I was curious when you told me about it. I was like, no, I'll definitely sit through this because I just want to see Jim Carrey do like a serious performance. And
yeah,
the trailer didn't look bad, and so I was really curious, and so I recommend it. Just If you want to see a serious performance from Jim Carrey, I would recommend it. But otherwise,
Honestly, if
no, don't watch it.
you could just you don't even have to watch the whole thing if you just want to see if you just want to see Jim Carrey in this kind of movie, like, then maybe watch just some
Yeah,
some
just little
scenes,
snippets.
but like it's not something you need to watch from beginning. It's not something you really need to watch at all. It just makes you frustrated that everything about it deserves a better movie than what this is. And Jim Carrey is a phenomenally talented actor. He's a remarkable actor. Boy, does he deserve something better than this. It's
It was frustrating.
yeah. I got nothing else. Any final thoughts about this? Or any other thoughts about it?
It's just funny that we watched Tarzan right before.
Oh, yeah.
No, I really don't have anything else to say except for if you want to watch little clips of the movie, you should if you're curious, but if you're not curious, skip this.
Unlike Tarzan, this did not have a Phil Collins soundtrack.
Son of Man is...
Yeah, random.
What?
All right, so that's Dark Crimes, everybody. The movie that's out this weekend that, again, like I said, you have most likely never fucking heard of, and probably for good fucking reason. See ya.
Bye.